My grandson John had stopped being able to speak well for some time. It might be called aphasia. Even when he had something to say, he couldn't get the words out and always contorted his face in frustration. What? If you have something to say it properly. You're not a dog. You can talk. When the daughter-in-law scolded him with a furious look, the grandson clammed up even more. You don't have to push yourself. Look, if you have something to say, write it down here. Silently, he started drawing a picture of a person in a blank sketchbook. All I could do was sit next to him and quietly watch as he drew. This is you, and this one is Grandma? Wow. You're good at drawing. However, he started drawing a strange person. With a white face, a bright red nose, and a red and white striped outfit. Could it be a clown? Nodding, he looked at me with pleading eyes. No way. Are you? This child is seeking help from me. My name is Irene Jordan, 60 years old. In my younger days, I taught at an elementary school. I married a colleague I met there, and I quit teaching when I became pregnant. My son Jesse, who was born then, has since become independent and has his own family, and now I enjoy a leisurely retirement with my husband. The biggest joy in our lives is our grandson. He comes to visit us every summer with his parents. The time spent with him is irreplaceably precious. The grandson is the child of my son and his ex-wife. After their divorce, my son took custody of him. Soon after, my son remarried, and they had a second child.
Annie is a really good wife. She doesn't chatter pointlessly when I come home tired from work, and she never makes unnecessary expenses. She's efficient in every way. Unlike my ex, who was terrible. She always came to me with John issues and bought unnecessary things for the child.
That's how my son often compared his ex-wife and Annie. He has always liked the word efficient. He was an excellent student and has been successful at work, but he considers anything that doesn't benefit him, even if it's important to his child, unnecessary. He has never bought a present for Christmas or the grandson's birthday, saying it would be a waste of money. Before my grandson started elementary school, the design of the gym clothes was changed. The parents decided to unify everyone with the new design, but Annie said it was enough to use the hand-me-downs from a friend's child, so the grandson had to wear the old gym clothes. My grandson wanted the same gym clothes as everyone else, but Annie stuck to her decision. My son admired her attitude from the bottom of his heart.
Annie's right. Elementary school is just a few years. We can't spend money on such things.
To them, most of the expenses for my grandson seemed like unnecessary expenditures. This summer, my grandson came to visit with his parents again. Since my son remarried, I've been worried about the relationship between my grandson and Annie. My grandson seemed isolated within the family. When he watched TV in the living room, Annie would shout at him to turn it off, even if it wasn't loud. Yet, when her own son Damon played loud music on my son's tablet, she would sing along without a care. I could understand her wanting to cherish her own son more than my grandson. But I couldn't help but feel the unfair difference in how she treated them. I hope she'll also give proper attention to him. I had repeatedly urged my son to have Annie change her attitude, but he always laughed it off.
He's an older brother now. He can take care of himself.
He never seemed to care about his own son. After the long rainy season, it was sunny every day. My grandson, carrying a bug net and cage, went outside, followed by his 2-year-old brother, who stumbled and fell. My grandson hurried back to help him up, and his brother, without crying, smiled and grabbed his hand. He's become such a good big brother. I watched the scene with a smile, but Annie's angry voice shattered the peaceful moment. Let go of his hand. What are you doing to Damon? She scolded my grandson while brushing the dirt off Damon's pants. Annie. There's no need to be so angry, is there? I tried to calm her down. Kids should play outside and get their clothes dirty. It helps them grow. My son came over and looked down at me coldly.
This is a family matter. Stay out of it, Mom. Did you get your clothes dirty again? Washing them costs money, you know. We'll have to charge you for it later.
It's exaggerated. Being too strict on children is unfair. Look, he's so scared. My grandson was intimidated by his parents and apologized. My grandson had stopped being able to speak well for some time. It might be called aphasia. Even when he had something to say, he couldn't get the words out and always contorted his face in frustration. What? If you have something to say it properly. You're not a dog. You can talk. When Annie scolded him with a furious look, he clammed up even more. You don't have to push yourself. Look, if you have something to say, write it down here. I handed him paper and a pencil. Writing down his thoughts allowed him to communicate when he couldn't speak. But lately, he would throw the pencil away, avoiding even writing when they were around. His speech problems began shortly after my son remarried. What's wrong? He was so cheerful and talkative when he was little.
It's because you spoiled him too much. If he can't talk properly by now, he won't be useful in society.
He laughed, blaming me for his speech issues. Actually, I've been thinking. I voiced my concern about my grandson. Maybe he should be examined by a specialist.
Do you know how much that would cost? I won't spend a cent on that.
Yes. If he's not confirmed to be ill, it's a waste of time and money. Predictably, they rejected my suggestion. You can't know if it's a waste unless he's properly diagnosed. Maybe a specialist could find a way to help. I tried to persuade them. It might be a developmental disorder. Haven't you heard about it on TV? My son waved his hand dismissively.
It's useless. This kid has always been useless. Taking him to the hospital won't change anything.
He turned to my grandson.
Hey, even Damon is starting to talk. Learn from your brother and speak properly.
He messed up my grandson's hair and said,
Don't be a burden to us.
My son and daughter-in-law didn't understand my concerns. Annie was completely devoted to her child, leaving no room in her heart for John. When John approached the baby with a smile, "Don't touch him with your dirty hands. Go away." She shooed John away as if he were a stray dog. Annie, I understand your love for the baby, but you should also be kind to John. The baby is John's brother, and he surely finds him adorable too. Don't compare the worthless John with the baby. She glared at me with a sigh. Worthless. There's no need to say it like that. If the baby gets negatively influenced by John, will you take responsibility? If this child's future is ruined, it will be because of John and you. Stop interfering with my parenting. Also, ask my permission before you speak to the baby. I chuckled at her exaggerated words, but she replied with a serious expression. I'm not joking. I truly believe your presence has a bad influence on the children. My sadness choked me, and I couldn't say anything in return. If you chat with someone as irresponsible as her, you'll end up a failure like your brother. With that, Annie took the baby and went somewhere. Having listened the whole time, my husband came and gently placed his hand on my shoulder.
Annie must have been in a bad mood. Don't take it to heart. John will start speaking up soon.
The next day also dawned bright and clear. While hanging the laundry in the garden, I gazed at the cloudless blue sky, feeling a desire to take the children outside. Since it's such nice weather, why don't we go outside to play with a bug net and a bug cage? The cicadas are chirping a lot. I invited the two children who were watching TV in the living room. Absolutely not. What if they get dirty or hurt? If you're going to take someone, take John only. She stopped me with a stern face. A walk should be fine. It's such nice weather. You haven't forgotten our promise, have you? When talking to my baby, go through me first. Taking the baby's hand, she said, let's play in the room with mommy. Giving up on the baby, I turned to John. Then, John, would you like to go for a walk with Grandma? But John shook his head slightly. But it's such nice weather. It feels good to move your body outside. Still, John shook his head and refused my invitation. He got up and brought crayons and a sketchbook from the bedroom. Do you want to draw, John? Wanting to respect John's feelings, I decided not to insist on taking him outside and just watched over him. John, still silent, began drawing people in the blank sketchbook. I felt someone's presence and turned around quickly. Ah. You startled me. How long have you been standing there? There stood Jessie and Annie, who had just gone to the room with the baby. Are you both curious about what John is drawing? Without answering, both followed John's hand movements with stern expressions. What's wrong? You both seem strange. It's nothing. John, keep drawing. John continued to draw silently under his family's watchful eyes. This is John, this is the baby, and this is Grandma? Wow, John, you're good at drawing. John continued to draw cute figures without confirming or denying my guesses. However, John then began drawing a strange figure behind Jessie and Annie, a person with a white painted face, a bright red nose, and wearing a red and white striped outfit. Is this a clown? John nodded slightly and continued drawing the clown. Oh, what a strange drawing.
Drawing weird things like that. John has no sense of art at all. Ugh.
Losing interest, Jessie and Annie left. When I got up to start preparing lunch, John suddenly grabbed my clothes with a strong grip. If you pull so hard, you'll stretch Grandma's clothes. I laughed jokingly, but John's serious gaze made me feel uneasy. Do you want to tell me something? John pointed to the clown in the drawing with a pleading look. What's wrong with this clown? At that moment, my husband returned from a neighborhood meeting.
What's wrong? Did something happen?
Sensing something amiss, he looked at the clown in the drawing.
Didn't you say before that clowns are scary?
My past memories flashed through my mind. I had indeed watched a TV show about a case where clowns lured and kidnapped children, and since then, I found clowns frightening. John had been sitting next to me when I said, "Clowns are scary, aren't they?" Could it be John? I looked at my husband, who seemed to reach the same conclusion, his expression tense. This child is asking us for help.
That's what it is, right?
He gripped John's shoulders firmly.
John, Grandpa and Grandma will protect you.
He promised with strong words. Now, what should we do next? To uncover what our son and daughter-in-law were doing to John, we devised a plan. Oh yes, we haven't used those yet. I remembered the high-end restaurant discount vouchers we received from a former student who is now a French chef. We called Jessie and Annie and showed them the vouchers. You've hardly gone out since the baby was born, right? How about having a meal together for a change? Jessie, without much suspicion, took the vouchers.
Lucky. This saves us money.
But I'm worried about the children. She looked at me warily. It's okay. We'll take good care of them. Enjoy a nice meal for a change. But the baby is only 2 years old. I need to be with him. Annie didn't like me getting close to the baby. Jessie patted her shoulder.
Let's take advantage of their kindness. It's a rare chance to have a high-end French meal for free.
Saving money and having a good meal worked well on efficiency-minded Jessie. Okay, if you insist. Still wary, Annie agreed to Jessie's suggestion.
We'll enjoy a romantic time. See you later.
With that, Jessie and Annie left in the evening. After confirming their car was out of sight, we headed to their bedroom. Although it felt intrusive, we nodded to each other, motivated by John's fearful face. My husband found a notebook in Jessie's bag with a website address written hastily, even marked with a sticky note. He opened Jessie's laptop and entered the address.
Look at this.
His face turned into a grim expression. On the screen was a dark website for illegal activities like organ trading and drug dealing. Jessie had bookmarked it and frequently visited it. Checking the email history, we found detailed exchanges between Jessie and organ traders. Shockingly, Jessie was trying to sell John to overseas traders, citing his speech disability.
This is criminal. John's his own son. I can't understand it.
Realizing their plan, we rushed to the police. Jessie and Annie were likely enjoying their high-end meal by then. Showing the website to the police, the detective's eyes widened.
We've been tracking this organization.
We explained the situation to the chef, who agreed to cooperate with the investigation. 2 people were eating at a restaurant, surrounded by police officers. Just then, Jessie, unaware of the situation, arrived.
Food tastes best when someone else is paying, right?
He said, laughing and chatting happily with Annie.
Jessie, Jordan and Annie, correct? We need to ask you some questions about the organ trafficking case. Please come with us to the station.
Jessie and Annie were startled by the sudden appearance of the detective.
Organ trafficking. What are you talking about? We have nothing to do with that. You don't recognize these documents? The vendors listed here are part of an illegal organization we've been monitoring. You can't deny your involvement.
As the detective presented the contract documents, Jessie clicked his tongue in irritation. When he noticed me and my husband hiding behind the police, he glared at us angrily.
You sold me out to the cops? Your own son.
Saying this, Jesse pushed Annie towards the detectives and tried to flee on his own. However, police officers had surrounded the area, and he finally gave up, collapsing to his knees.
I didn't do anything. I don't know anything about this. That woman must have forged those documents.
I don't know anything. You did this on your own. They both denied the accusations until the end, but the detectives forcefully took them to the patrol car. This was the right thing to do, wasn't it? I asked.
Of course. We protected John together.
My husband comforted me as I struggled with the guilt of reporting our son to the police. The next day, we went to the police station to speak with Jesse, but even family members were not allowed to see him. Instead, a public defender reported on his interactions with Jesse. According to the lawyer, Jesse showed no remorse and instead cursed us for reporting him, calling us heartless.
He's beyond help.
He exclaimed, enraged.
Lawyer, next time you see him, tell him that he and Annie are the heartless ones.
To me, this felt like a declaration of disownment. We had another matter to address, getting a specialist to examine John's aphasia. Despite my repeated requests, neither Jesse nor Annie had taken it seriously. But we couldn't leave John untreated. I took John to a general hospital with a pediatric psychiatric department. The diagnosis was that John's aphasia was likely caused by accumulated emotional distress.
You see.
As he interacted with the psychiatrist, John slowly started to speak. According to John, Annie's harassment began right after she became pregnant with Damon. After giving birth, she constantly treated John as a nuisance. At first, she ignored him, but when he tried to play with Damon as he got older, she yelled at him to stay away. Though John could endure it a few times, daily mistreatment made him fearful of Annie. The only person who could have saved him, Jesse, ignored his son's growing isolation, instead siding with Annie to push John away. Jesse often told John he was useless and unwanted, driving him further into isolation. Among the evidence seized from Jesse and Annie's home, police found a diary Jesse had kept. It revealed that Jesse not only ignored John but also considered selling his organs to help their finances. When I heard this from the detective, I was so shocked that I couldn't eat or sleep that night. It was Annie who first suggested the idea of organ trafficking. Jesse told his lawyer that he wouldn't have considered selling his son if Annie hadn't suggested it. To them, John was nothing but a burden. They likely saw expenses for his education and counseling as a waste of money.
What a disgrace. Putting their own profit above their child's future. As a father, I'm ashamed. No matter the circumstances, wrongdoing against one's own child is unforgivable. Lawyer, make sure you tell him that.
The lawyer, who had a daughter himself, sympathetically agreed to relay the message. Where did we go wrong in raising our child? I wondered. Each new revelation from the police and lawyers made me feel more powerless as a mother.
It's too late for regrets. All we can do now is ensure our grandchildren's happiness.
You're right. I couldn't find any other words to say. Later, Jesse and Annie were arrested for violating the organ transplant law, along with the brokers and their entire organization. We don't know what sentences our son and his wife will receive. Even if they get out early, living a normal life again will be difficult. They likely won't see their children again, and even if they want to, we won't allow it. My husband and I vowed to raise our grandchildren ourselves. The incident involving our son and his wife was widely reported in the media, and our local community was well aware of our situation. Despite this, no one gossiped about us. Instead, they showed great affection towards John and Damon. An elderly couple next door often brought us vegetables from their garden, saying, "Give these to the kids." They even invited the children to help with the harvest sometimes. Thanks to the community's kindness, John's trauma began to heal, and his aphasia gradually improved.
Hey, Damon. I'll catch a big beetle for you today. Wait for me, big brother. I want to come too.
During summer vacations, the two would often go play in the woods. Damon, free from Annie's skewed upbringing, grew up to be a kind child, much to our relief. Though I still felt the lingering regret of failing to raise Jessie properly, watching my grandchildren grow gave me and my husband hope. 10 years have passed since then, and John is now a high school student.
Human trafficking is still rampant around the world, with many children falling victim to greedy adults. This isn't just a distant issue, it happens right here in the US, close to home. I was lucky to be saved by my grandparents. Now, I want to extend a helping hand to other children. Please, let's not turn a blind eye to this sad reality. Let's fight it together.
On weekends, John engages in volunteer activities, researching and writing articles about human trafficking and giving talks at community centers.
I had a valuable experience, and I want to use it to save innocent children. I believe it's my mission.
He spoke to me with a determined look in his eyes. John aspires to be a journalist and often debates passionately with my husband about news and current events.
Grandpa, you need a broader perspective to change the world.
Yeah, you're right, you are more knowledgeable and eloquent than I am these days.
Meanwhile, I started a children's cafeteria with help from my community. Inspired by John's fight to protect children's futures, I felt compelled to do something for them too. We not only provide meals for kids after school but also help them with their studies, utilizing my experience as a teacher.
Thanks again, ma'am. See you next time.
Watching the children leave with bright smiles, I silently prayed for their continued happiness. How did you find today's story? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.